My boyfriend has a very regular schedule. At 9 o'clock in the evening, his phone is muted on time and he no longer replies to any messages. Even if I had an appendicitis attack. When I called him, he couldn't rush to the hospital either. I thought his habit was unchangeable. I stopped forcing it and no longer relied on him when I had something to do at night. Until I heard him chatting casually with a friend. "You've been broken up for 3 years, and you still sleep while on a voice call with Mia?" He nodded casually. I promised her back then that as long as I'm not married, I'll keep doing this. Mia was his childhood sweetheart he had dated for many years. The friend then mentioned my name and asked if he was worried that I would be sad. He chuckled. I said my schedule is regular, and she believed it. She never makes a fuss about it. At the end, he added, "She's really easy to deceive." In an instant, I felt like a complete joke. Fortunately, it's not too late yet. I looked down at my phone. And my supervisor was asking if I had decided to study abroad. I thought there was no need to hesitate. Because of something urgent, the appointment time needed to be postponed by half an hour. After I told Henry about this, he told me not to worry and said that he was studying with a friend in an empty classroom and could wait for me slowly. Half an hour later, we were supposed to meet directly at the school gate. But I finished earlier than expected. As soon as I came out of the laboratory, I ran all the way to the study room, planning to meet Henry first. But when I just got to the door, before I could push the door open, I unexpectedly heard his friend say, "Henry, you and Mia have been broken up for 3 years. And you still sleep while on a voice call?" Hearing this familiar name, I couldn't help but stop in my tracks, and my hand that was about to push the door froze in midair. Mia was Henry's childhood sweetheart and also his first love. Hearing this name again, I felt a bit dazed. After all, anyone would feel a bit strange when hearing about their boyfriend's first love. The next moment, through the crack of the door, I saw Henry in the classroom. His expression didn't change. And he even nodded casually. When I was dating Mia, I promised her, as long as I'm not married, even if I'm with another woman, I will definitely sleep while on a voice call with her every night. I will never break my promise. If I remember correctly, my boyfriend Henry had repeatedly told me that he would go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. Even if it was his parents or relatives, they couldn't reach him. Later, on several occasions, when I needed to find him urgently at night, I couldn't get through to his phone no matter what. All my messages seemed to sink into the sea without a reply. At that time, I really believed in his regular schedule. Now that I think about it, it's extremely ironic. I stood outside the classroom, my body inexplicably stiff, and a bone-chilling cold spread from my heart. The 2 people in the study room didn't notice me. His friend was still asking questions. Keeping a promise is a good thing. But you have a girlfriend now. You have such a good relationship with Daphne and even decided to get married after graduation. Aren't you afraid that she'll be sad if she finds out about this? Henry chuckled upon hearing this. I said my schedule is regular. She believed it and never makes trouble for me. What's more, I'm just sleeping while on a voice call with Mia. I'm not doing anything to betray her. When I say I go to bed at 9, it's kind of true in a way. At the end, he added, "You know, she's really easy to fool." After he finished speaking, the empty study room fell silent. And my heart completely lost hope at this moment. Henry and I have been together for 3 years. Our relationship is strong, and we love each other. We hardly ever had any conflicts. We were the perfect couple in the eyes of all our classmates. There was only one thing that almost caused a dispute between us. That was, Henry's schedule was very regular. After 9 o'clock every night, he would turn his phone to silent and then go to bed, not answering any more messages. Even though I was his girlfriend, there was no exception. I still remember that at that time. I found a part-time job at a company near the school, so I didn't go home during the summer vacation and lived alone in the dormitory building. Henry also didn't go home and said he would stay at school to accompany me. I worked during the day and rushed to have a date with him before 9 o'clock at night, never being late. I wasn't without dissatisfaction about this. But Henry insisted that it was a habit he developed since childhood and said that not staying up late was good for his health. Naturally, I couldn't come up with a reason to refute him. Later, one night, I suddenly had an appendicitis attack and was rolling in pain on the bed. My hometown is thousands of miles away from the school. During the summer vacation in this completely strange city, I could hardly find anyone who could help me. The only person I could turn to was my boyfriend, Henry. It was 11 o'clock at night at that time. I was in so much pain that my consciousness was blurred. But I still gritted my teeth and called him. As expected, no one answered. Later, I endured the pain and sent him many messages. Still, there was no reply. At that time, I just thought he had fallen asleep and his phone was on silent, so it was normal that he couldn't hear me. So I could only call 120 myself. After this incident, no matter what urgent things happened at night, I wouldn't think of asking Henry for help. Naturally, I wouldn't be annoyed with him about his good schedule. But I didn't expect. The good schedule I thought he had was just an excuse for him to perfunctorily deal with me. Every night he blocked the messages of everyone including me, just to sleep while on a voice call with his ex-girlfriend without being disturbed. When I think about this, it somehow seems ridiculous. And I'm the most ridiculous one. Thoughts surged like the tide. I looked up at Henry in the study room again. This man, who fell in love with me at first sight at a club activity and then pursued me high-profile live for half a year. I once thought he had me in his heart and eyes, and I also promised him that we would get married after graduation and never be apart for the rest of our lives. I thought there would really be a lifetime for us. A lifetime that was clean and without any pain. I had even argued with my family for this and tried to stay in this strange city to safeguard my love. Now that I think about it, I was really pitifully stupid. My heart seemed to be grabbed by an invisible big hand, and the pain was so intense that it was hard to breathe. And the two people in the study room still didn't notice my presence at this moment. His friend was still asking him, "So, are you really going to marry Daphne? If you get married after graduation and sleep together, you won't be able to be on a voice call with me anymore." To this, Henry didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked a bit dazed. After a long time, he slowly said, "Henry and I really love each other. The promise to get married after graduation is not a joke. As for me and Mia, it's already over a long time ago. And this promise is only valid until I get married. I'm not that irresponsible a man." Standing at the door and hearing this, I somehow found it ridiculous. If he were really responsible, then having a girlfriend while still being entangled with his ex-girlfriend, even sleeping while on a voice call with her every night, this matter itself was a kind of betrayal. But he didn't show the slightest bit of guilt or uneasiness. The man was still asking, "So if Mia comes back, will you treat her as a friend or a stranger?" Regarding this question, Henry didn't hesitate at all. Instead, he seemed a bit puzzled. He quickly retorted, "Even if we can't be lovers, after all these years of affection, isn't it normal to be friends? Is it normal to be a friend with one's first love to the extent of sleeping while on a voice call?" His friend didn't say anything more and just silently lowered his head to work on the problems in front of him. And I didn't push open the door either. I just silently turned around and gradually distanced myself from this fact that made me so embarrassed. It was not until the moment I walked out of the teaching building, looking at the scorching sun, I felt more and more like a joke. Fortunately, it's not too late yet. I looked down at my phone. My supervisor still hadn't given up. He had just sent a long essay, trying to persuade me to agree to go abroad for exchange and study with him and the senior fellow apprentice. The reason I was late for the date was that the supervisor suddenly found me and talked about the overseas exchange. And I always remembered the promise with Henry. There are so few couples who can persevere in a long-distance relationship across different countries. So for the sake of love, half an hour ago, I gave up my future. It turns out that I was really stupid. Fortunately, the supervisor didn't give up on me. Looking at his words of persuasion, they were all sincerely for my own good. Now that I knew about Henry's betrayal, there should be no hesitation between my future and a man who has already betrayed me. So I decisively dialed the supervisor's phone number. Before he could try to persuade me again, I spoke first. "Teacher, I'm willing to go abroad." After expressing my attitude on the phone, the supervisor was overjoyed and asked me to go to the laboratory to find him immediately. There are so many materials to prepare for going abroad. It can't be clearly explained in just a few words on the phone. Since I decided to let go, naturally I should focus on my studies. So I rushed to the laboratory right away. The supervisor and the senior fellow apprentice Lucas were waiting for me in the laboratory. When I arrived, the two of them surrounded me, one on the left and one on the right, looking a bit curious. "Daphne, why did you suddenly change your mind?" The supervisor's eyes swept back and forth on me, as if a bit suspicious. He knew about me and Henry, and also knew that I planned to get married after graduation. So I couldn't participate in many projects he led. He had sighed about this for a long time, saying that I shouldn't be down by marriage so early. Half an hour ago, when I refused without hesitation, he was so angry that he even wanted to hit me. Now that my attitude had changed suddenly, it made him hesitant. The same was true for the senior fellow apprentice Lucas. As the supervisor's most proud disciple, he was the protector of all of us junior apprentices. Besides academic matters at school, he also provided us with a lot of help in life. Especially for me, his last admitted apprentice. He was more concerned. Like the supervisor, he had also been impatient with me for my failure to meet expectations. Seeing the suspicion in their eyes, thinking that they were among the few people in this school who treated me sincerely, I had nothing to hide. So I told them what I had heard just now. I can't tolerate betrayal. Since he can't forget his first love, I have nothing to be reluctant about. As I spoke, the senior fellow apprentice reached out and gently patted my shoulder. He had always been gentle and spoke extremely softly, but at this moment a hint of anger still appeared in his eyes. "Daphne, you're wonderful. It's him who doesn't know how to cherish." "That's right." The hot-tempered supervisor suddenly slapped the table, making a loud noise. The old man was so angry that his beard was bristling, and he walked back and forth in the laboratory with his hands behind his back. At my age, I think I'm good at judging people. Although I was a bit sorry that you gave up your studies for love. I used to think Henry was a nice guy and your choice wasn't wrong. Now it seems that this guy is really good at pretending. I didn't expect him to be such a scumbag behind the scenes." The supervisor's words were filled with strong condemnation. Then he turned to look at me, his eyes showing obvious concern. "Daphne, don't be sad. It's just a man. In all these years, I may not have much of other things, but I have a lot of students. Your senior brothers are good-looking and smart. I can arrange a gathering for you later. They will definitely be thousands of times better than Henry." After saying that, he turned his head and glanced at Lucas, his tone carrying a faint sense of seriousness. "Your junior sister has been bullied. You should also pay more attention." Lucas nodded and then turned his gaze to me. The two of them exuded a protective aura. Perhaps worried that I would be sad because of this, the supervisor immediately waved his hand, saying that he would take me and Lucas home and then cook a big meal for us himself. Before we set off, I somehow muted my phone. This meal was also very enjoyable. It was not until 8:30 p.m. that I said goodbye to them and then slowly walked back to school. As soon as I arrived at the school gate, a big hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. I didn't even have time to react. Just as I was about to scream, another hand covered my mouth. Then the familiar breath surrounded me. Looking at the man in front of me, I gradually relaxed my body. "It's me." Henry slowly withdrew his hand, his brow slightly furrowed. He seemed a bit unhappy. He took out his phone and pointed to the time on it. Didn't we agree that you'd only be half an hour late? I've been waiting for you for a long time. If you had something to do in the laboratory, you could have sent me a message in advance. It's not like you couldn't answer when I called you more than a dozen times, right? At the end, Henry's tone was clearly tinged with grievance, hinting that I should comfort him. But I didn't respond. Especially when I looked at him, I remembered what he had said in the study room in the afternoon. Am I that easy to deceive? Because I'm easy to deceive. So he chose to lie to me and chose to betray me. My heart suddenly ached. After all, he was my boyfriend of 3 years. I had loved him wholeheartedly, even quarreled with my parents for him and included him in my future. As a result, his betrayal made everything I had done a joke. I quietly took 2 steps back. Just as I was about to speak, I suddenly found my voice a bit choked. I tried to calm down for a long time. Then I said, Henry, I told you before that I have important things to do in the laboratory. I can't be distracted when doing experiments. And my phone needs to be muted, right? I had mentioned this to him many times before, but he never seemed to care. So he furrowed his brows again as if he didn't understand. Experiments are important, but as your boyfriend, shouldn't I be more important? Hearing his words, I finally couldn't help but ask. Since being a boyfriend is more important, then as my girlfriend, shouldn't I be more important than your unchangeable regular schedule? Suddenly mentioning his regular schedule, Henry, who had just been looking pitiful and wanting me to comfort him, suddenly became a bit impatient. He let out a long sigh and looked at me as if I were an extremely unreasonable child. Then he said earnestly, Daphne, haven't I told you about this long ago? My sleep schedule was formed since I was a child. Once I make an exception, my schedule will be completely messed up in the future. Don't you want me to be healthier? He always did this, easily throwing all the contradictions at me, and in the end, it seemed like I was the one being unreasonable. So I also took a step back and imitated him to retort. Then in the laboratory, every one of my experiments is very important. It's related to my studies and future. Don't you want me to be better in the future? He paused for a moment, then raised his eyebrows and smiled. What's the big deal? We've agreed to get married after graduation. By then, you'll be my wife. Are you still worried that I won't support you? Look, he was making the kind of common yet easily broken promise that men often make. And then denying all my efforts. My heart couldn't help but feel sour again. But this time, before I could speak, he suddenly seemed to think of something and looked down at his phone. It was 850. He suddenly stuffed his phone back into his pocket and said in a hurry, I won't send you back to the dormitory. If there's anything, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I have to rush back to sleep. After saying that, he directly turned around and ran towards the direction of the boys' dormitory building. Henry. I finally couldn't help but call out his name. He stopped and then turned to look at me. His eyes were as anxious as ever. Daphne, what else is there? I really have to go back immediately. Henry, can't you make an exception for me just this once? I directly interrupted him. I watched as his anxious expression turned impatient, and then became extremely serious. He shook his head and refused without thinking. Then he said in a solemn tone, Daphne, don't be unreasonable. So this small request was actually considered unreasonable in his eyes. It was really sad and ridiculous. After he finished speaking, he didn't have any more patience to talk to me. Instead, he directly turned around and started running towards the boys' teaching building. As he ran, he took out his phone, seemingly dialing someone's number, and then continued running while answering the phone. I just stood there, watching the man I had once deeply loved gradually move away from me. I thought that if I were to linger on this love that had been tainted with dirt from the start, I would truly be pitifully stupid. But fortunately, a month later, I would go abroad for exchange with my supervisor and senior fellow apprentice. From then on, with mountains high and roads far, we would never see each other again. In the second year of being with Henry, we rented an apartment near the school. The apartment wasn't big, but it was a cozy 2-bedroom, 1 living room place. Every weekend or on special holidays, we would go on dates outside the school. Sometimes when we didn't want to go back to school, we would rest in the apartment. We each had our own room and had never crossed the line. So, for such a long time together, I just thought he was a self-restrained person. Little did I know that his evenings were already occupied by another woman. Therefore there were quite a few of my things in this apartment. Now that I had decided to go abroad, naturally, I had to personally erase all traces of myself in this apartment. Early the next morning, I went to the apartment. However, I didn't expect that when I arrived at the apartment, Henry was also there. He was standing in the living room and next to his feet was a large cardboard box, which seemed to have just been opened. I didn't know what was inside. When he saw me appear, he was startled at first. Then he nonchalantly closed the box, turned around, and walked up to me, speaking in an affectionate tone. "Daphne, why did you come to the apartment today?" If I still knew nothing, I would definitely have been suspicious of his strange behavior just now and might even have gone up to check the box myself. But since I had decided to leave, whether there was a secret or not had nothing to do with me. So I moved my gaze away from the box. Turning to look at Henry, I said calmly, "I came to get some things." I didn't want to have too many arguments with Henry before leaving, because I was tired and it wasn't necessary. So I didn't even plan to tell him that I was going abroad for exchange. Just as I was thinking about what kind of excuse I could come up with so that he wouldn't be suspicious and I could smoothly pack up and take away all my things from the apartment, he spoke first. "Daphne, there's something I want to discuss with you." As he said this, there was a bit of hesitation in his eyes, along with some guilt. I nodded calmly, indicating for him to continue. He smiled at me and then said cautiously, "It's not a big deal. I have a friend who is coming back from abroad in a few days and has no place to live. So I was thinking of lending this apartment to her for a while." After he finished speaking, Henry turned to look at me, closely observing my face, for fear that I would show any unhappy expression. As soon as he mentioned having a friend at the beginning, I had already sensed something. A woman's sixth sense is often very accurate. So I directly asked him, "A girl?" He nodded, as if afraid that I would get angry, and then kept making promises. "Don't worry. There's nothing between me and this friend. I haven't seen her for years. And you surely trust me, right? Daphne, I only love you." He held my hand affectionately, saying sweet words that cost nothing, trying to make me fall for it. But there was no trust between us anymore. Was it really that he only loved me? Or was it because I was easier to deceive? Even I could guess who the so-called friend was with my eyes closed. It was quite ridiculous. But I still nodded and said along, "Of course I trust you. But you know, I don't like strangers touching my things. So since your friend is going to move in, I'll take all my things away first. That's okay, right?" Since I wasn't angry and even readily agreed, he was extremely happy and immediately nodded repeatedly. "Okay. I'll help you pack." After saying that, he got up and walked into my room, saying he would help me pack my clothes and books. I stood in the living room, looking at his busy back. His eagerness wasn't because he was worried about me getting tired, but because he hoped I would leave soon to make room for Mia. It was quite ironic, wasn't it? I took 2 more steps forward, but accidentally kicked the box. And it opened a corner. I looked inside along the corner. On the top of the box, there was a photo. In the photo were Henry and a strange girl. They were kissing freely in front of the camera. I thought this girl should be Mia. I had only known her name before, and I had never thought that the first time I would clearly see her face would be in such a situation. I silently withdrew my gaze and then walked into the room to start packing things together. In less than a morning, I had packed all my things. 2 large boxes were filled to the brim. These were all my memories, the memories of me and Henry. Before going back to school, I turned around and took one last look at this apartment. It seemed that everything was the same. Yet it also seemed that everything had changed. In the following few days, I was always in the laboratory. At first, Henry would still come to find me. He would occasionally complain, asking why I couldn't spare more time to be with him. And then he would sit pitifully at the entrance of the laboratory. He always did this. Knowing that I was soft-hearted, he used this trick to make me compromise. But now I wouldn't be soft-hearted anymore. So after squatting at the laboratory entrance for a few days, he gave up this trick. Later on there wasn't much contact between us. Henry, who used to send me messages every day, often disappeared all day long as if he had something to do. I thought Mia must have returned to the country. And I didn't expect that my first encounter with Mia would be so unexpected. On campus, I had just finished an experiment and was about to go to the dormitory building to catch up on some sleep. But as soon as I walked out of the teaching building, I ran into Henry and Mia beside him. Daphne, why are you here? In the past few days, I had been running around outside with the teacher and was mostly not in the laboratory. He was well aware of this. So he looked so surprised at this moment. I didn't answer. I just calmly glanced at Mia beside him. She was a very beautiful girl with delicate features. When her eyes met mine, she unreservedly cast a provocative look. Henry didn't notice this. Instead, he quickly walked up to me and started explaining with a slightly guilty look. She's a friend of mine. She just came back from abroad. She only knows me in this city and is quite curious about our school. So I thought I'd show her around as a host. This explanation was full of loopholes. So Henry was also very nervous, for fear that I would question further. After all, as long as I asked for the other person's name, everything would be exposed. But I just nodded and then reached out tiredly to press my temples. Then you show your friend around. I just finished an experiment and planned to go back to the dormitory to rest for a while. Seeing that I didn't seem to notice, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Then he put on a concerned look. All right, then you should go back to the dormitory and rest quickly. Don't push yourself too hard. I'll be distressed. Mia, who was standing aside, looked rather unpleasant upon hearing this. But I didn't care. Under their gaze, I turned into the nearby path and walked towards the dormitory building. However, I hadn't walked for long when I realized I had forgotten my meal card. I had left it in the laboratory, so I had to go back to get it. Before I could enter the teaching building, I saw Henry and Mia standing in the corridor. The two of them were leaning against the corridor, talking happily with smiles on their faces. So this is the new girlfriend you've got. She's quite good looking, but not as good looking as me. As she spoke, Mia raised her eyebrows at him. Henry just smiled indulgently and nodded. Yes, she's not as beautiful as you. After that he let out a sigh. If Daphne knew your identity, she would surely make a scene with me. Mia sneered, then raised her hand to stroke her hair, looking rather casual. We're in the past. Now we're just friends, being open and aboveboard. What's there to be angry about? If I were her, I wouldn't even care about such a trivial matter. Hearing this, Henry shook his head again. He said, Daphne is petty. She's not as magnanimous as you. She'll definitely be jealous. Mia then grinned and moved closer to him. She asked, well, I don't care. You promised to accompany me for a few days. You can't go back on your word. Henry nodded, still wearing that indulgent smile. I won't go back on my word. I'll take you to the nearby amusement park for a day tomorrow. I remember you love riding the carousel the most. I'll take pictures for you then. Hearing their words, my heart still couldn't help but ache for a moment. After all, he was my boyfriend whom I had truly loved for 3 years. The feelings were real, so the process of detachment was truly heart-rending. What made me even more heartbroken, though, wasn't his betrayal, but his disrespect for me in front of his ex-girlfriend. It was really disgusting. 2 weeks passed like this. There were less than 5 days left until my departure abroad. During these 2 weeks, I had very little contact with Henry. Most of the time he was out of touch. Presumably, he was accompanying me around for fun. All my procedures and materials were ready. And now I was just waiting to go abroad. After submitting the procedures and materials, I made an appointment with my senior fellow apprentice Lucas to have dinner in the evening and discuss some research issues by the way. Just as I hadn't left the campus yet, I saw Mia again. This time, she was alone and walked straight towards me. She was clearly coming for me. So I didn't move and watched her walk up to me. Mia first took a look at me. Then sized up Lucas beside me, and finally sneered. I thought you were really into Henry. I didn't expect you to have a backup guy. He's fairly good looking. But you're playing the field like this. If Henry finds out, do you think he'll be angry? She was immediately twisting the truth and talking nonsense. So I didn't have a good expression for her either. People with a dirty mind see everything as dirty. Don't you think so? Hearing my words, Mia was stunned for a moment. Then, as if a bit surprised, her tone became rather meaningful. So, you already know who I am? I nodded and said calmly, Mia, Henry's ex-girlfriend. Since you know who I am, aren't you afraid? A deeper smile appeared on Mia's face, looking as if she had everything under control. I was puzzled. What should I be afraid of? She laughed out loud. And then her gaze was filled with obvious provocation. Naturally, you should be afraid that now that I'm back, your boyfriend's heart will return to me. She really didn't hold back. So I directly retorted, some people are so eager to be a mistress and still show off. They'd probably get beaten up if they went out. And you're worried about whether others are afraid? I mean, how can you be so shameless? Mia, who had been looking complacent just now, turned pale with anger at my words. She immediately pulled a long face and stopped pretending. Then she said, don't act so calm here. Since you know my name, you should know my past with Henry. We loved each other deeply, more than you can imagine. If I hadn't gone abroad, we wouldn't have broken up. But now that I'm back, you should understand who should step out of this relationship. Don't hang on tightly. It's really disgusting. I nodded, seemingly agreeing with her. It is disgusting, considering how shameless you are. You. Mia was so angry at my words that she was on the verge of choking. Finally, she took a deep breath and then laughed again. Daphne, stop pretending. I know you're furious right now. Do you really think Henry loves you more than me? I sensed there was more to her words in motion for her to continue. She raised her eyebrows. How about we make a bet? I've investigated you before. Your birthday is coming up in a few days. Right? As your boyfriend, Henry should be with you on your birthday. But if on that day he never shows up and is with me all the time, will you then understand who should step out? Mentioning my birthday, I was taken aback. Because my birthday happened to be the day I was going to go abroad. So I accepted this bet. Because I didn't care about winning or losing. Regarding my birthday this year, Henry had said a long time ago that he would definitely prepare well. And he also said he would give me an unexpected gift. At that time, we loved each other deeply. I didn't know about the things he did later, and I was really looking forward to this day. Now it can only be said that people's hearts change easily. Or rather, Henry's heart, it seems, was never pure from the start. A few days before my birthday, Henry was still in contact with me. According to his previous plan, I was supposed to have a date with him alone on my birthday. But I didn't want to. Mostly because I was leaving the country that day. The plane tickets for me, my supervisor, and my senior fellow apprentice were booked for the evening. So there was a lot of free time that day, enough to attend the farewell party organized by my fellow senior and junior apprentices. Coincidentally, it was also my birthday, so everyone said they would hold a birthday party for me. So I directly refused Henry's proposal. I didn't say much either. Although he was a bit dissatisfied, he still agreed in the end. He also said he would arrive early and stay by my side all the time. He said things like this many times. I just smiled and didn't respond. Finally, 5 days passed. And it was my birthday. The senior and junior apprentices started decorating the private room early. The supervisor and the senior fellow apprentice had already taken their seats. Only Henry said he would be here soon half an hour ago, but he still hadn't shown up. I naturally knew the reason, so I didn't think much of it. I was even about to put my phone away and start celebrating my birthday. Just then, my phone dinged. Henry sent a WeChat message. He said, "Daphne, something urgent has come up on my side. It's really important, and I might not be able to make it to your birthday party. But after your party is over, I will definitely make it up to you in the evening. Then we can go on a date, just the two of us. Okay?" As always, his sweet words sound nice, but his actions don't match. I clenched my phone. Couldn't help but shake my head and laugh wryly. Then I was about to put my phone away again, but it rang once more. After our last encounter, Mia added me on WeChat. Presumably, she got my WeChat ID from Henry. After adding me, we didn't have any contact or chat. But this time, she directly sent me several photos. In the photos, she was sitting in the Ferris wheel, smiling freely at the camera. And beside her, Henry was carefully reaching out to protect her. In the next photo, Henry was sitting right next to her. Mia lowered her head to kiss his cheek, and he didn't dodge. Just as I finished looking at these two photos, Mia sent a message. "I have a slight fear of heights. So when I told Henry that I planned to ride the Ferris wheel alone today, he came over without hesitation, saying that he was worried I'd be scared and needed to be by my side. So Daphne, you've lost this game of love so thoroughly." But I didn't feel like I had lost. He was just trash. Losing him only made me feel relieved. There was nothing to be pitiful about. My thoughts came back. My junior female apprentice waved at me, calling me to make a wish. I put my phone in my pocket, then walked over with a smile. Under the gaze of everyone, I closed my eyes and started making a wish. I hope that in the future, I can be happy and joyful. This seemingly simple wish is actually never easy, but I still hope it can come true. I opened my eyes, bent down, and blew out all the candles. Everyone cheered and clapped, saying auspicious words one after another, wishing me a happy birthday and blessing me with happiness and peace. I thought, I wasn't that pitiful after all. At least I had a group of really nice people around me who would always be with me. After having cake with my classmates and playing around for a while, it was about time. I washed my face and then officially started saying goodbye. Then I got in the car and headed to the airport all the way. Before getting on the plane, Henry sent me another WeChat message. "Daphne, I heard that kissing at the highest point of the Ferris wheel can make a couple stay together for a lifetime. Shall we go together next time?" I didn't reply to this new message because I felt disgusted and thought it was unnecessary. I turned off my phone, got on the plane and didn't look back. I thought this was really a final farewell. 5 years passed in a flash abroad. My supervisor's health wasn't very good. After finishing the latest experiment, he planned to retire. So my senior fellow apprentice and I accompanied him back to our home country. After being at the school for so many years, we still had feelings for it. So we went back to the school together, wanting to look around. The junior male and female apprentices of the same department were very enthusiastic. They gathered around, chatting non-stop, sharing interesting stories about the school with me. One lively junior female apprentice looked down at her phone, then looked up at me, as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. Finally, she said, "Senior Daphne, did you and Senior Henry really date before?" Hearing this name again, I was still a bit dazed. More importantly, I didn't understand why she would ask such a question. Another junior female apprentice quickly chimed in, "Senior, you don't know. There was a post on the school forum that was extremely popular. All of us junior students have heard about it." "What kind of post?" The supervisor, who had just finished reminiscing, came over with red-rimmed eyes, a glint of gossip in his eyes. The junior female apprentice quickly said, "It was about when Senior Daffy chose to go abroad with you." The supervisor, at that time as Senior Daffy's boyfriend, Henry, seemingly didn't know about this. He went around asking about Senior Daphne, and this matter caused quite a stir in the school. Later, Someone said that Senior Daphne went abroad for study in exchange. Plus, your project at that time needed to be kept confidential, so even the school authorities didn't know your exact location. Henry went crazy. He blocked those school leaders every day and even threw money at the school, saying that whoever could provide news about you would get a generous reward. Anyway, this matter got really big, and even us later students heard about it. Another junior female apprentice nodded and quickly added, "When I read the post, I thought he was quite affectionate. But later, someone dug up that every time he came to school, there was a girl by his side. Then, someone else found out that the girl was actually his ex-girlfriend, named Mia or something. It seems that even earlier, some people had seen the two of them strolling around the school openly. At that time, Senior Daphne and he hadn't broken up yet. So everyone knew that Henry had cheated first. Plus, everyone was gossipy and kept an eye on this matter. It seems that the girl had been pestering Henry, but for some reason, Henry didn't choose to be with her. Instead, he kept looking for Senior Daphne everywhere. Even after graduation, he didn't go to the company. Henry's family is so rich, but he flew around the world every day. As a result, his father's illegitimate son took advantage of the situation and got the inheritance rights of the company. Now Henry's life isn't going so well. Back then, Henry was quite a topic of discussion in the school because of his good-looking appearance. Plus, his family background was well known, so many people knew about him. Nenty was just something to talk about after a meal. When it was mentioned occasionally, it was just a matter of a smile. Another junior male apprentice asked me, "Senior, now that you're back, do you still think about getting back together with him?" I chuckled, "Would you turn back to pick up trash?" The junior male apprentice was stunned. And then everyone present burst into laughter. After all, no one likes picking up trash. However, I didn't expect that I would meet Henry again so soon. Presumably, he had learned about our return. So in the morning of that day, after accompanying the supervisor to reminisce in the school, I was about to go back to the hotel to rest. Just as I reached the school gate, I was stopped by Henry. "Daphne, long time no see." His voice was a bit choked. And his eyes were red, like a pitiful abandoned puppy. I looked up at him carefully. He was thinner than before. There was some stubble on his chin, and his hair was messy, looking a bit unkempt. He no longer paid as much attention to his appearance as before. I smiled at him. Yes, it has been a long time. 5 years had passed and all the love and hatred had actually vanished. After all, without love, where would hatred come from? Now, I just regarded him as a somewhat familiar stranger, saying a few polite words that were neither too intimate nor too cold. Seeing my distant attitude, Henry became even more excited than before. He wanted to walk towards me quickly, but I stepped back first. He was stunned, then stood where he was and started to explain. "Daphne, back then, you went abroad to study without even saying goodbye. Did you ever think about me?" I sneered. "Think about you? What for?" "To think about whether you rekindled your relationship with your ex-girlfriend." Hearing the sarcasm in my words, his face turned pale, and then he said nervously, "It's really not what you think between her and me. She's already in the past. She just had a whim to come back to the country to see me. I thought that even if we're not boyfriend and girlfriend, we're still friends after all. That's why I accompanied her for a few days. But I swear to you, there's really nothing between us. I've always loved you and decided to propose to you after graduation. You know that. Now that things have come to this, there's no old score that can't be settled." So I directly exposed his words. "Really nothing." Then on countless nights, you said you were going to bed early and didn't even reply to my messages. Was it really a regular schedule, or was it just a lie so that you could have a voice call with your ex-girlfriend while sleeping? I put the matter out in the open. No more explanations would be of any use. His face turned deathly pale, as if he didn't expect me to know about this. He opened his mouth, wanting to explain, but seemed not to know where to start. "Henry, I did love you sincerely once. I really wanted to have a future with you. I may not be that outstanding, but I just can't accept betrayal. During our relationship, you lied to me and had a voice call with me every night while sleeping. Maybe you think this is no big deal, but dare you ask around? Aren't you really afraid of being scolded? Perhaps. Actually, you don't care at all. Since you don't care, then don't pester me anymore. Isn't it better to part amicably? Who said I don't care? Daphne, I've always loved you deeply. I still want to propose to you, he said nervously, and then, as if he thought of something, he started to reach into his pocket. Yes, the proposal. On your birthday 5 years ago, I was going to propose to you. I even prepared the ring. As he spoke, he took out the ring and carefully held it in front of me. Look. This is the ring for proposing to you. I looked down and glanced at it. The style of the ring was indeed something I particularly liked 5 years ago. But so much time has passed. What I liked in the past doesn't mean I still like it now. Seeing that I didn't move for a long time, he moved closer to me and held the ring in front of me like showing off a treasure. But I felt inexplicably disgusted. So I directly reached out and knocked the ring away. The ring rolled a few times on the ground and finally fell into the sewer. It was gone. I stared at the sewer and suddenly laughed out loud. Look, this is its real destination. After that, I no longer looked at his ashen-faced expression, but directly turned around. I looked up at the sky not far away. The sun is shining brightly at the moment. I should, as I wished 5 years ago, live a happy life. And those unworthy people should be like that ring, thrown into the sewer.